check in with yourself during the journey. And this is called preventative maintenance in manufacturing. I take that into how I live. The reason manufacturing plants have preventative maintenance plans is because you don't ever want the plant to go down. I used to go down all the time. How are you making sure that you're operating at 100%? Chapter 8, the limited series podcast about the book Undressed. I'm Greg Vetter, the writer and the one talking about this stuff. Chapter 8 is pretty interesting because it is the exact moment where all of our insane dreams began to become true. There were massive dreams and aspirations and planning and innovation and risk. And chapter 8 is where it all begins to come together. And there are signs and omens that we're going to blast out into the stratosphere. But then there's also all of these tests that have to be passed before we can actually take that final step. And in all of the entrepreneurial journeys I've ever heard about or read about, there's always this kind of moment where you get everything you ever asked for and then some, but then you're tested. So chapter 8 was about that. And the field guide is an interesting one in the sense that you always hear, be careful what you wish for because you might get it. What you need to know is something along those lines, which is be prepared to win beyond your wildest dreams. And I think that's a tough one to do because the preparation to win beyond your wildest dreams, not dreaming giant dreams, being prepared for them to come true. That was really interesting and difficult because up until this point, we had been dreaming big dreams and we were getting 10% of it, 20% of it. And so you keep just shooting for the moon, swinging for the fences, and you're hoping something's going to come your way. And in this moment, we were developing all these products for this giant grocery store. We had this massive presentation. We didn't know how many they were going to take. And then the next thing you know, they're taking everything. How do you make that much stuff? We did not prepare for that level of win to happen. And so I tell people now, be prepared to win beyond your wildest dreams, because when it comes and you're not ready, it probably is not going to come again for a long time. What you need to know: create things you are proud of. And I like this part of how to do it. Be a motherfucker about the quality. Don't cut corners. Don't make excuses. Don't settle for mediocrity. Do it the way you would want it to be done. The reason we had the success we had in that moment with that presentation was because we made things exactly how they needed to be made. The packaging was better than anything anyone had ever seen. The quality of the products were better than anything that had ever been done. Now, nobody said it could be done, because this is when we launched our shelf-stable ranch dressing and our refrigerated ranch dressing that was the first clean ranch dressing to ever be developed without thickening agents, that was dairy-free, that was keto, that was paleo, that was this, that was that. And because we didn't cut corners and we believed it was possible and we believed that these products should be made. And so often you come up with an idea, you present it to somebody and they go, it can't be done, or it's too hard, or it's whatever. But what if you just didn't take no for an answer and you made it exactly how it should be made? What would happen? That's what we did. And that's why we got those gigantic yeses. What you need to know: check in with yourself during the journey. I reference this often, and this is called preventative maintenance in manufacturing. Preventative maintenance is a maintenance plan for all of your equipment and all the stuff you have going on. And you have a maintenance plan and you follow it every single day, which means you're always fixing something even though it's not broken. So you're changing the belts, you're always, making sure the pistons are working, or the freaking mixers are mixing properly, and you just fix stuff every single day even though it's not broke. I take that into how I live and how I look at the world. How are you making sure that you're operating at 100%? The reason manufacturing plants have preventative maintenance plans is because you don't ever want the plant to go down because it's so expensive for the entire thing to be shut down for an extended period of time. So then you just fix stuff so that the machines are always running and it never shuts down. We didn't understand that in the beginning of the journey, and our bottling line used to go down all the time. And what else is funny is I used to go down all the time. I would get very sick in the winter and just say, oh yeah, it's the flu. Or I would get a summer cold like, you hear about. And in reality, what was happening, I wasn't sleeping enough. I wasn't taking proper vitamins. I was drinking too much to counterbalance stress. And my body was just needed a reset. The plant was down and it needed a new plan. And so when I think about the preventative maintenance plan required for success, I think about not letting the manufacturing plant go down. And so now everything I do nutritionally, from an exercise perspective, from a sleep perspective, from a general well-being perspective, is making sure that the plant doesn't go down and that I am operating as close to 100% as possible. Something else that's really interesting in this chapter was after we got these unbelievable yeses and our dreams were all coming true in real time. And we had been working towards this moment for years. One of our employees that had been with us forever basically self-sabotaged himself and almost our entire company at the finish line. And I had never seen self-sabotage like that to that magnitude up until that point. And it reminded me of the introduction to the 10th anniversary edition of The Alchemist. And Paulo Coelho goes through the 4 obstacles that may stand in your way when trying to achieve your personal legend. And all I kept thinking about when this guy basically pulled the chute was the 4th obstacle. And The fourth obstacle is the fear of realizing the dream for which we fought all our lives. And he says the mere possibility of getting what we want fills the soul of the ordinary person with guilt. We look around at all those who have failed to get what they want and feel that we do not deserve to get what we want either. We forget about all the obstacles we overcame, all the suffering we endured, all the things we had to give up in order to get this far. I've known a lot of people who, when their personal calling was within grasp, went on to commit a series of stupid mistakes and never reached their goal when it was only a step away. And that's what happened here. All we had to do was go to a final meeting, almost as a formality, and just get a yes. And then our stars were changed forever. And I'll let you all read the book or listen to the story of how this whole thing went down. But it was the most dramatic potential end to a journey that I've ever witnessed in my life. And now, as I'm talking to young entrepreneurs and CEOs, what I did was I copied the 4 obstacles to achieving your personal legend from the 10th anniversary. And I send it to them. And I say, read this, depending on how chaotic the journey is. Read it once a month. Remind yourself what can get in your way, what can stop you, and what those obstacles look like. Me personally, now I read it once a quarter, just as a reminder. And it's unbelievable when you look at people, whether they're successful or not successful, you can pinpoint the ones that have failed and where they are and what obstacle and what bucket they fell into 100% of the time. 100% of the time you go, yep, they failed because of obstacle or bucket 1. They failed because of bucket 2. They failed because of bucket 3. And the most dramatic is always bucket 4 because it's self-sabotage. And he has this really great line, which is, it has a saintly aura around it, which is renouncing joy and conquest. And I was talking to somebody about that, and they brought up this interesting point, which was, do you think you're worthy of achieving your dreams and your goals? And that's an interesting question because it is kind of a buzzword. You know, you hear all these people are like, I'm worthy to accept love. But it's interesting when you ask yourself in the mirror about whether or not you're worthy to accept your dreams coming true. Because you can see it all the time. I mean, probably the greatest examples and the most public examples are just in sports and media. These people get to the top, money beyond their wildest dreams, fame beyond their wildest dreams, and they just light it on fire. It's a freaking dumpster fire. And in reality, what's happening, and again, it's one of the 4 obstacles, but maybe they don't think they're worthy to accept this level of success. I think that's why I love Michael Jordan so much, because when I think about a guy that just did it and was unwavering, and even though he did have a stumble there, and I wouldn't even call it a stumble, or he just kind of wanted to live out another dream in his dad's honor, I mean, this dude just did it. And I'm sure when he looked in the mirror, he was like, I got it. This is my dream. This is what I worked for. This is why I grind. This is what I care about. This is what I've sacrificed. and I'm gonna do it. And so when I'm talking to my kids, I'm always talking to them, Jordan's the GOAT, in my opinion. Then Kobe. I don't care about statistics. That dude's mindset, GOAT mindset. Not going to get into the rest of that debate right now, but I'm happy to have it with anybody that wants to have it. But the interesting part about chapter 8, and I look back on it now, there has never been such a kind of definitive and monumental moment of victory, and then all you have to do is go pick it up, and then the obstacles that are in your face to try and test you to see whether or not you actually have the ability to accept the gift. All of that happened in chapter 8. The reason I continue to read the 4 obstacles to achieving your personal legend at least once a quarter, once a month, they pop up for everybody all the time. And you have to be aware and recognize them. And they sneak in little ways. The self-sabotage one for me was always procrastination and a delay in the ability to execute. So not even so much of like, I don't feel like doing it, more so just hanging around and not just pulling the trigger, not eating the frog in the morning, first thing you do, not having the tough conversations. I felt that happening multiple times, or I started getting distracted with nonsense, which then goes back to the reason that Moleskin journal I have breaks it out between my most important goal, critical and urgent, beneficial and important. Because I could look at what was critical and urgent for that day, and even in a tier 2 situation, what's beneficial and important, I didn't feel like doing any of it. Maybe I'll go on a walk. Maybe I'll reply to a bunch of emails that don't matter. Maybe I'll work on a project I've been neglecting. Well, I know what I need to do today. I know what I need to do after I get the critical stuff done. Why aren't I doing it? And I'd reread the 4 obstacles. I go, okay. Am I scared of this next step? Am I scared I'm not going to accomplish the next step, which is a totally different obstacle altogether? But that was a really magnificent reset for me. And anytime I'm dealing with a lot of chaos, I'll reread that and just go, am I worried about any of these? Am I doing any of these? Are any of these right now in my life that are preventing me from accomplishing my goal? Because they're real and they pop up forever, and it's your job to keep them in check. Having a baseline regrouping strategy is so important. For me, it's reading the 4 obstacles and then going way back, which I'm literally listening to right now, the rare recordings of Napoleon Hill. It's like 8 or 9 hours of this dude talking in the most ridiculous accent ever. And he's the GOAT. That's my GOAT. Nappy Hill. That's what I call him. Napoleon Hill is just on another level. But what that does for me is it brings me back to, what am I doing? Am I focused? Am I getting it done? Am I scared to tie a knot and hang on? Or my hands getting tired? And what do I need to be doing right now to set myself up for success tomorrow? Because It's not that people are bulletproof or there's just these unbelievable human beings that never get tired or never have a bad day or, are the most organized, focused humans that have ever lived. There's maybe a handful of them. It's the people that can regroup. It's the people that can go, holy shit, I am down a rabbit hole right now. I need to get my shit straight. I need to take in this adversity. I need to eat it. I need to metabolize it. I need to turn it into rocket fuel. And I just took a step back, and now I got to take 2 or 3 more steps forward. And that's only going to happen if you have some type of regrouping strategy. So, chapter 8, very impactful field guide, very insightful. Thank you for tuning in. Next time we chat, we will be on chapter 9. This is Greg Vetter, and this is Undressed, the limited series podcast. Thanks.